สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ Over the past 2 videos, we've been discussing about the topic of happiness, and that actually, happiness is something that we can access right here and now, as long as we don't forget the present moment. In other words, if we can also learn to generally and gradually train ourselves to be grateful for and to appreciate the small things we have in life right now. Therefore, we are less inclined to depend on external circumstances. We are less inclined to invest our happiness or state of being outside ourselves in external circumstances, such as the future, waiting for that job promotion you wanted, or waiting for that new car, new house, new relationship that you want. And once you're more inclined to turn inwards and consider the processes that are happening within you, then you'll be more at peace and joyful generally, and you'll have and cultivate a baseline level of happiness. This is not to say to let go of or to cut your desires or to stop wanting or to stop chasing after your goals, dreams. Of course not at all. But this is merely a suggestion that we want to learn to be happy first here and now, and move through life from that basis of understanding. Wouldn't it be much better? Wouldn't it be much wiser? And so you could actually even live life in a more fulfilling and meaningful way. And the things you get, you appreciate them even on a deeper level, but at the same time, you don't depend on them to be truly happy. And that is the mark of somebody who has mastered themselves. And that's why I invite you to join me as we work on ourselves together and work towards actualizing this aspect together. Now, I want to continue here on this topic and talk about the value of solitude. The value of solitude. Being with yourself, by yourself, with no distractions whatsoever. Cutting yourself off from the world for a given set period of time to practice on self-reflection, self-contemplation, meditation, and just patience. What would it be like if you've got nowhere else to turn to or go to but yourself? And this is why many of our wise teachers, the wisest of the wise, our teachers, our sages, our mystics, our gurus, they all say the same thing. They all point to the same direction, that in order for you to really cultivate self-awareness and wisdom, in order for you to really grow on deeper and more profound levels, one cannot escape the topic of solitude. One cannot deny the value of going into solitude to learn about your true nature. So let me begin by this. In our modern world, we live in a busy and noisy world. Everywhere we go, everything we do as we engage with society is designed to be busy and noisy and to fill in the silence. Think about this for a moment. Even going into the department stores, shopping centers, and many restaurants nowadays, it is filled with some music playing in the background to fill in the silence. You're in your car, driving. You are likely to turn on the radio or the music, right? Especially if you're with somebody else in the car, to fill in the silence. It is designed to make us feel comfort and comfortable. But comfort can, in an ironic sense, hinder us or prevent us from learning about our true selves or our true nature on a deeper and more profound level. So the value of solitude is to, at least for some given set of time, maybe 2-3 days on a weekend, maybe 5 days, 7 days, or 10 days if you have time, to really set aside the time with the intention of practicing going into solitude, setting time aside to go into meditation, self-reflection, contemplation, you name it, right? to temporarily cut yourself off from all the noisy distractions of the world. Cut yourself off from social media, from Facebook, Instagram, Line, WhatsApp, or any application you're using. Cut yourself off from the need to distract yourself by texting somebody, calling somebody, going outside to do something just for the sake of distraction. And you will learn so much about yourself rather very quickly. Especially if this is something new to you, or if you are beginning to do the practice, you will realize that with this initial cutting off from the daily distractions, right? If you do it right away, you will experience a reaction from your mind. You will see how much your mind craves these distractions. You will first of all see, in one sense, how your mind really dislikes the silence. It feels uncomfortable in it. And when you've got nowhere to turn to, when you've got nowhere to go because you have decided to do a solo meditation retreat or a solo retreat of solitude, and if your mind has nowhere to go to, you're left to confront yourself. You're left to confront your own thoughts, thinking patterns, attitudes, perspectives, belief systems, emotions, and feelings. You've got nowhere to run to. You've got nowhere to hide. And this will teach you so much about yourself and what you fear. And it is an experience that should humble you as you continue on the process of self-actualization. So observation number one, notice how you will feel an immense sense of reactivity or agitation of the mind, or frustration perhaps, or boredom, or discomfort in silence, right? And this is especially, as I said, if you are new to the practice or if you've never done this before. Second of all, notice how when your mind is engaged in the normal daily routines of life in our modern day society, you will start to begin with the practice of solitude to realize that, wait a minute, much of my time has been spent in the mind going outwards to distract itself with outer external circumstances. Entertainment, YouTube, watching movies, videos, playing games, chatting with people, social media, going to a shopping center, doing activities. If you really see it, in one sense, it's actually coming from, to a greater or lesser extent, coming from a place of needing to distract yourself. And that's very interesting. So first of all, solitude begins to reflect for you to see that you're spending so much time, energy, and effort distracting yourself. So if you learn to do this practice mindfully and observe it objectively, notice yourself, notice your mind, notice your thoughts, your thinking, your attitudes, your perspectives. Notice your focus. Where is your center of attention? Where does your mind want to drift off to? You will begin to see that, wait a minute, most of these things, if not all, are spent in drifting off into external outside circumstances. Then you will begin to see, now that you're in solitude, you have no option but to pull that back and turn inwards and really begin the process of deep self-reflection, self-contemplation, meditation, and observation. You've got nowhere to run, you've got nowhere to hide, so you're forced to turn inwards. You're forced to cope with your feelings of discomfort, your feelings of frustration, your feelings of boredom. And if you learn to cope with this in a mindful way, without needing to judge yourself for having those feelings, without needing to label anything, without needing to label meaning demonize, like, I don't like why I'm feeling frustrated. That's an example of judgment and labeling and demonizing, right? Without needing to do those things, but just watch yourself objectively with a sense of curiosity. You will begin to learn so much more about yourself. You will begin to cultivate patience and coping skills because you have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, and you're forced to confront your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And I borrowed this from a meditation teacher. You're forced to confront it. And this develops a unique skill set. You become more tolerant, you become more capable of coping, you become more capable of tolerating and staying with negative emotions and feelings. And that is an important skill set to develop in life. And you cultivate and develop patience. You cultivate and develop self-awareness. And this helps you to ground yourself in the present moment, which we've been talking about in the past few videos. It helps you to ground yourself in self-awareness and wisdom. So, as you begin to take back power, take back control, or take back your center of attention, in other words, take back your focus from outside external circumstances and turn it inwards on yourself and consider yourself and watch yourself, you begin to understand the nature of your thoughts, thinking patterns, belief systems, attitudes, and perspectives, and the nature of your fear much more. What do I mean by this? So, before we go there, let me briefly explain or go into the concept of what is the difference between external factors and internal factors. So let's put it this way. When we're engaged in the normal routines and busy demands of daily life, we tend to be in the habit of looking outside ourselves, and when we feel something, feel an emotion or something like that, we tend to attribute it or explain that, I feel this way because of that thing. So that is what is meant by looking outside yourself, looking externally. For example, if somebody insults you and calls you names and says mean things to you, and you feel angry, our natural, understandable reaction is to say, that person made me angry. His or her words made me angry. But you see, that is you looking outside yourself to find and explain or blame outer circumstances for what's happening within you. And in that sense, you're giving your power away because you are misunderstanding what is actually happening. Because the truth of the matter is, it's not about the words that really cause you to feel upset. You yourself caused yourself to get angry by the way in which you reacted to those words, by the way in which you interpreted those words, by the way in which you gave it meaning. And this is a process that's all happening from within, you see? So this would be a more correct way of looking at it. Understanding that actually it's about my internal processes and how I react or respond that determines the quality of my state of mind, whether I'm going to be angry and therefore suffering, or whether I'm going to be calm and therefore collected and peaceful and happy. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you should like somebody insulting. Of course not. That would be to take it to the extreme. What I'm merely suggesting is that you don't have to like it, but you also don't have to be disturbed by it. You also don't have to react to it. You don't have to be angry at it. You don't have to be under its control. You don't have to be its victim. And this is what solitude will help you to cultivate and build these types of very important life skill sets. So, as you begin to turn your attention inwards more, you begin to learn about your thoughts, your attitudes, your perceptions, your belief systems, and how they serve you, and how they actually come from a place of where you feel some sense of ownership over these belief systems. You identify with them, and you believe them to be true, and you want to express ownership over them, and therefore you need to protect them. It gets you to understand your egoic self much better, your own ego structure, which I've talked about many times in past videos. So let's use an example. You begin to see that how you experience life is through the driving force of your belief systems and your conditioning. Conditioning meaning you keep reinforcing the same thinking patterns, whether you took that on from your family, from your society, or from your own way of looking at it. You reinforce these thought patterns until they become a habit, until it solidifies as a belief. And from a belief, it solidifies as a condition, as a program per se. And it controls the way, or it influences the way in which you understand your reality, you understand your world, and you make sense of your experiences. But the thing is, you begin to see that actually these things are not as concrete or tangible as may first meet the eye. It's not as set in stone, it's not as fixed as you may have previously believed. And you begin to appreciate how your whole self-concept is nothing more than a bundle of belief systems tied together. Belief systems about who you are, your nationality, your sex and gender, your preferences, your likes, your religion, your value system, your nationality, your age, who your family is, where you stand in your society, what your occupation is, the whole bundle of it. It's nothing more than belief systems which are conceptual in nature because there's nothing that is actually tangible about it. It's only held on an intellectual, conceptual level. But you identify with it and you believe it to be true. And when you identify with something, when your intellect identifies with something, you feel a sense of ownership over those concepts. And the moment you feel a sense of ownership over them, I borrow this from many teachers like Sadhguru, for example, when you feel a sense of ownership over these concepts, you naturally want to protect them. But these things are not concrete in reality itself. They come from a conceptualization or a belief system, a belief pattern of who you are. So, for example, you begin to see that in order for me to protect my sense of self or whatever it is that I identify with or I feel that I love or like, in one sense, I am making a division in how I view my reality. For example, if I like political party A, then that means that I dislike political party B. And I view the second political party B, as a threat to me and my values and my society and the country or culture I live in, the society I live in. And therefore, you see that previously, when you demonize that other person, that other group of people, that other situation, that demonization, feeling upset at it, feeling that it's bad, labeling it as evil, labeling it as very immoral, unethical, or corrupt, or whatever, in one sense, is coming from a place of you needing to protect yourself. Because it comes from your ego's agenda, which needs to preserve and protect its sense of self-concept. That's very interesting. You begin to realize how, in one sense, conflict comes not because of some morally fixed or righteous reason that you would like to believe, but actually that's an excuse that your ego comes up with, because in one sense, a lot of this drive, a lot of conflict comes from the fact that two different egoic positions are infringing upon each other. Now, understanding this process humbles you, because you understand that most of the things that you view as a problem or as an obstacle or as something evil in life actually is not about reality itself, but it's about you needing to protect some position that you hold and that you identify with. And this is a very profound realization to begin to have. And it humbles you, because the next time you're going to judge somebody, the next time you're going to demonize somebody, you'll think twice. And on the flip side, you begin to learn more that if I have this process or mechanism operating in me, then so do other people. And so you begin to become more accepting of what is. Acceptance does not mean to not take action. That's a big misunderstanding. Acceptance means you can be at peace with what is and still take action as needs to be. And you will realize that in many, many cases, you don't even need to take action and change something outside of you, because you understand that actually, in truth, the problem is coming from within. And that's a mind-blowing fact to realize. For example, you don't need to control or manipulate or change the behavior of your romantic partner, right, to be the way you want, because you begin to realize that it's not really about getting them to behave in the way that you want. It's about you learning to master yourself and really be more accepting and loving, and understanding that many of the times these things come from a drive to protect some sense of identity or concept. Now again, I'm not saying for you to be a pushover or be a doormat for them to walk all over you. That is a misunderstanding. There are times you need to take action. If you're having an argument, then you need to learn to communicate with each other in a constructive and healthy way. But the point is, if you're coming from a place of self-awareness and wisdom, you will therefore be more likely to be able to engage in that communication, that compromise, that explaining why you feel the way you do in a more constructive way that promotes mutual trust, respect, and understanding. And you begin to value that at the end of the day, you don't really have control over how your partner feels or what they do, right? You only ever have control of your own emotions, how you feel and what you do. And that you would value doing the best with what you've got. And that is meaningful and fulfilling in itself. And you begin to take back power because you depend less on external circumstances to be the way you want in order to feel happy. You yourself are a self-contained happiness-producing machine because you are content and you are at peace, generally speaking, in life. And people will pick up on that. And I guarantee you, life will unfold in magical ways for you if you begin to walk this path and consider this process and practice these processes. And I encourage you to join me as we learn together and grow together, because this is a lifelong learning process. You begin to see that you cannot truly depend on outside circumstances to make you happy. You must first learn to be at peace in your own mind and heart. And then from that place, move through life and do what needs to be done. Take action as is needed, but you do it in a light-hearted way. You don't need to be suffering and taking the action to achieve some outcome. You can take action from a place of self-awareness, wisdom, and love. And this is one of the keys of self-mastery. And this is why solitude is dearly and deeply important if one is interested, genuinely interested in learning about this and wanting to cultivate these levels of self-awareness, self-understanding, compassion, wisdom, love, and coping skills, tolerance skills, patience. And it will humble you. You will be more patient. You will judge less. You will think twice before judging. You will demonize less, and you will be more accepting and loving because you understand that there is ignorance behind other people's poor and unresponsible behaviors. And instead of trying to directly control them to be the way you want, you instead take responsibility for yourself, for the way you choose to respond to a situation, for the way in which you choose to look at something, interpret it, give it meaning, and for your state of mind, happiness, well-being, and peace. And I think that is a very important thing to discuss. And again, I encourage you to find some time, set it aside, maybe once a year, twice a year, once every other year, maybe 3 days, 5 days, 7 days if you have time, whether in a meditation retreat or at home by yourself, as long as you can truly turn off your phone and cut off from the world for a set given period of time, and turn inwards and go deep within, and you will learn so much about yourself. And I guarantee you, it will be a very fun process. It might be a bit difficult at first, I understand, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the more you will value this process of growth and self-actualization and learning. I hope this was valuable for you. Please let me know what you think in the comments. If you like the video, please like and share as well. And I'll see you next time in next week's episode. Thanks for watching. สวัสดีครับ